What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, back at it for a very special episode of In The Kliq. And you all know I love MLW, Major League Wrestling. And on the line, by way of Zoom, I'm extremely excited to be talking to a member of one of the best factions in pro wrestling today, the Dynasty. He's also the master of Muscle Mountain and also the MLW National Openweight Champion, Alex Hammerstone. How's it going, Alex?
It's going great. That was a pretty good intro as far as intros go.
Thank you. I was practicing beforehand. Not only was I listening to a little Queens of the Stone Age to get amped up for this, but also, I was practicing my best. But I'm super excited to be talking to you. So much to talk about. First things first, man. MLW, Major League Wrestling, is coming back. Fusion, their big show. The restart is happening next Wednesday, November 18th. There's multiple ways you can watch it. So on Fubo Sports Network, that's going to be Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. Also on MLW's YouTube channel, so please subscribe there. Also 24/7 on DAZN. And also on Saturday nights, 10 o'clock on Bean Sports. So I'm super excited. It's been, over 6 months since I think we've had new episodes of MLW Fusion. So first things first, man, just tell me, how excited are you to be back in an MLW ring?
Man, like it almost doesn't feel like real when we're saying, "Oh, it's next week," like because it's felt so far off for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So to actually be back in business, doing our thing, it's great, and just the excitement and feedback from the fans has been incredible. So I just can't wait to get the ball back rolling. All of us are so ready
Mm-hmm.
to pick up where we left off. We're so hungry for it. So, I think we're going to jump right back into the fray and, be a product that people want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, first question out of the gates, as far as the restart goes, who had the better tan, you or Richard Holiday?
Well, I mean, I'm always going to lean to myself because, see, I tan more naturally red, whereas Holiday gets like this olivey brown color,
Yeah.
and it's just too different. It's apples and oranges, but I like the burnt gas station hot dog look. It's my thing. That being said, though, I freaked myself out because I was tanning, a couple weeks out from our first times filming, and I started. I had this spot on my back that like hurt and itched, and I can't see or reach. And then I'm like asking like my girlfriend, "What is this?" And she's like, "I don't know. It's a weird little spot." And I'm like, I freaked myself out. Like, I don't know if I have skin cancer, so I didn't tan like for weeks before the restart. So Holiday had quite an advantage in that respect, but I still think I got him.
Okay, good. So, I mean, I'm looking at you right now by way of Zoom, and we'll get the video out there as well for everyone to watch. So, I can see, you're working your way to 1991 Hulk Hogan status, right? Is that the ultimate goal for you?
I mean, that's the elusive gem that everyone's chasing, right? It's that pinnacle of greatness that if I ever achieve, maybe I'll retire.
Nice. So, man, I mean, a lot of stuff to talk about with MLW. Also, want to ask a lot about West Coast Pro Wrestling representing right now,
Yes,
Prime Time Live, all that stuff. But just real quick, how are things been going for you during this whole pandemic for the last? God, I mean, I'm losing track now. I mean, I think for most of us, it's been last 8 months. So, yeah, how
sir.
have things been for you?
It's definitely been rough I assume it is for most people, the ups and downs, and mostly, messing with your head mentally more than anything else. But, I got to keep things in perspective, realize that the whole time I've had a roof over my head, I've been
Mm-hmm.
able to keep food on the table. So, just because some of the luxuries in life might have went to the wayside and some of the things that, you know, kind of take for granted to be, honest,
Mm-hmm.
had to get put on hold. That was very difficult for me. It was a struggle. It was a mental struggle. It was a physical struggle in some respects. But that being said, I do feel like I was fortunate in the fact that, hey, on the tail end of things moving forward, I'll be able to kind of, get back into my pattern of what I was doing beforehand. Nothing too, traumatic or life changing or life altering happened. So, no one close to me, and I didn't lose anyone close to me, and anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I just have to, keep things in perspective in that regard, and be thankful and be grateful that now as things start to normalize a little bit, I'm in a pretty good position.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm really glad to hear that. And I hope for a lot of pro wrestlers who weren't working during this pandemic, I hope for a lot of them, got them really hungry. And also took the opportunity just to really, work out and heal up their bodies and just come out with a bang. And so that's why I'm so excited for MLW. I mean, to their credit, they Court Bauer and the powers that be, put the press release out that they were going to take time off and just make sure everyone's healthy and be safe. So I respect that decision. Um,
Yep.
but just like looking on MLW social media, so I encourage everyone to follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for all the latest updates. I know they were kind of teasing something was going to happen within the last couple months. They had just that photo of the empty ring with the MLW logo and Fusion. So was that ultimately where you guys were filming these brand new sets of episodes for MLW Fusion?
Um, I believe so. I'm not sure. I know Court was working very hard to get all the ducks in a row to make this happen,
Mm-hmm.
and he was working at it for a while. And the closer he got, the more little breadcrumbs he started dropping, such as that.
Okay.
But he was very much concerned with doing it in a way that not only kept everybody safe, but kept everyone feeling you know just feeling relaxed and able to put their best foot forward, because there's with a group as large as we had
Mm-hmm.
for what we're putting on, with all these our core roster, and then add-ons, and then all these special appearances by people that have never even worked for the company, or big returns. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many people there, and then you take into consideration extras and cameramen and all this stuff. You're talking dozens and dozens of people, so in a cramped space. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have to be worried about getting sick, like, how are you going to go and put your best foot forward out there? So
Mm-hmm.
they really went above and beyond in that regard. So I think the picture he tweeted out was actually where we ended up getting everything done.
Cool.
But like I said, he had been wanting to do it, and he had been we had been in touch here and there. Like, we were all like almost ready, and he really didn't pull the trigger until everything was good to go, and came off without a hitch.
Okay, awesome. Looking forward to that. So, I mean, just kind of give a little preview of what can we expect for these next set of episodes of Fusion with the restart. Is it empty arena matches so far, just to begin with? Is that the setup right now?
Yeah, so I mean, Court, very much like me, because we've had a couple, talks.
Mm-hmm.
He wants a crowd. He thinks it's very important. As I think we all do. We
Mm-hmm.
realize how once you take that aspect away, you realize how much of pro wrestling is the audience, how much
Yeah.
is the fan interaction, how much is kind of the call and respond,
Mm-hmm.
as far as the performance aspect. But that being said, what we've done so far has been all empty arena.
Okay.
And if I'm really under the impression that if the opportunity arises, sooner rather than later, we're just going to pull the trigger and do a show with fans,
Mm-hmm.
if it's being able to be done in a way that aligns with all the regulations and keeps
Mm-hmm.
everyone healthy and safe. But if that's not in the foreseeable future, we're not taking another break. We're going to keep trucking along with the current formula. But Court is, knowing him, he's looking at every avenue possible to at least bring in some type of fans in the building, whether it's in a super limited capacity or what have you. I feel like he's really prioritizing that.
Okay, no, that's great to hear, and like I said, I look forward to it. And so, before we kind of jump into what can we expect, especially like for you and the Dynasty, I just want to ask, just about the state of MLW. And one thing I really do respect and love is that, they're making deals. I get all the press releases from them as far as they got the new deal with Fubo Sports Network, the stuff with the new deal with the Zone and re-signing with Bein Sports. So for you, just the state of MLW, that they're continuing to expand their presence out there for fans to consume. So it must be an exciting time for you to be part of the MLW roster in that sense.
Yeah, it definitely is. Because like I said earlier, we're all ready to jump back in, and we all kind of have a chip on our shoulder, kind of being left in the wayside. So
Mm-hmm.
we all want to, come back in full speed ahead, hit the ground running. But it's just that much more motivation, that that much more incentive, that little icing on the cake to know that not only are we jumping back into what we were doing before, now we're going to potentially have, hundreds, thousands more eyes on us. People that have never seen the product before now have an opportunity to, and it's really reassuring, because every time a deal was announced, there was almost like a little bit of backlash. Like people going, wait, does that mean I'm not going to be able to watch it here? Does that mean this? Does that mean that? But now with the official release of, all the ways you could watch the show, there's no, oh, we're switching here instead of there. It's everything's in addition. So it's like, nope, we're just adding platforms. So if you can't watch it this way, you can watch it that way. If you can't watch it that way, you can watch it this other way. So there's really something for everybody, whether it's live TV, whether it's a streaming service, or whether it's just good old YouTube. You have a way to get to MLW, and it's going to be super accessible. Perhaps even the most accessible wrestling product in North America right now.
Absolutely. And speaking of just the product, MLW itself is, for anyone who's listening right now, maybe doesn't know too much about MLW and its history. For me, the way I try to explain it, and I've said this to other guys from the roster I've talked to the Von Erichs, Brian Pillman Jr., even Richard Holiday himself a while back. I all told them that what I love about MLW is, hey, I'm a kid from the 90s. I grew up in the Attitude Era. I love, of course, WWE, WCW, but, there was like the third brand, ECW, and how it was obviously, of course, the hardcore aspects of it, but also with the vibe of it. And for me, like, there's a lot of similarities I see from like MLW to ECW as far as like in today's world. Of course, we have WWE still, we have AEW, we have other promotions that exist, but MLW, I really feel like is this treasure, this hidden gem that's in the huge landscape of wrestling. We know there's so many promotions that exist right now, but MLW, it just, for me, I love just its presentation, the production value, the guys on the roster, all that stuff. So for me, like, I mean, the way I can easily explain it is like ECW, but from your perspective, how would you explain maybe what makes MLW so special compared to what else is out there?
I think probably the number one driving factor behind the kind of vibe that you just alluded to is the fact that there's not a creative team of writers, sealing everyone off and putting everyone in boxes, turning people into cookie cutter wrestlers. There's damn near 100% creative freedom for the talent, especially guys who have been part of the show and kind of like have their role. If we're bringing in a new guy or an extra talent from outside, they may get some direction on what they're supposed to do. But like for me, it's like, okay, we're going to cut this promo and do this. And there's been so many times I get a message from like another wrestler or fan or whoever, like, how did you get away with saying this or that in the promo? And I'm like, because it's what I wanted to say, and like sometimes like this, there's literally been things that like I think we're kind of riding the line of like what's gonna be okay to put on TV. Like sometimes I'll literally cut a promo and I'm with a cameraman, and I think like when the office sees it, they're gonna go, oh crap, we can't even use that one because he said this or that. And then next thing you know, at the next taping, not only did they air it, but they want me to lean harder in that direction. Like, no, do that even more. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And, some of my best matches, it's like, I've worked for TV where I have, they say, go out there for 8 minutes, do this, make sure this happens, make sure you hit this move, make sure blah, 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 blah. And then I've gone out in MLW and I'm like, okay, what am I doing tonight? And they go tear it up. 20 minutes. Give us your best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they're not trying to shackle us and make us something we're not. They're not trying to have anybody fit this certain idea that they don't believe in. So everything I do is very much like it resonates with me because it's what I want to portray. So I think everything comes across a lot more believable. It comes across that the talent like are enjoying themselves, and it just whether it's the promos, the matches, or just like the overall vibe of the show, like you're gonna get better results because people like wrestling is the best parts of wrestling is when it feels real because there's reality there. So when you're when you turn it into an acting show and you have 20 writers coming together to make a promo and you have all this over agented matches, it just becomes very contrived, becomes very fake, and people can appreciate it and respect it for like athleticism, but to me that's such a small part of what wrestling is supposed to be. So
Yeah.
MLW really gives us the freedom to explore everything that we want with in regards to our presentation.
Totally. I agree 100%. Just watching the last set of Fusion earlier this year, just the energy, the passion, the promos, the backstage segments, stuff in and out of the ring, like I feel it, and takes me back to being a kid again in the 90s. So I'm glad you said all that stuff, and that's why I encourage everyone to watch Fusion when it returns next Wednesday nights. And I cannot say enough good things about MLW and just how awesome it is. So let's just talk about what's next for MLW and yourself. So we've at the last set of Fusion way back in, I believe it was April or May that you guys had, we saw Contra Unit take over the headquarters, beat up everyone, laid them out, and now recently, the last set of episodes of Pulp Fusion on MLW's YouTube channel, we saw you making the calls, trying to rally the troops together, and even we saw recently on MLW's YouTube channel that you guys took back the MLW headquarters, beat up everyone, took it back over. So how just exciting for you guys just to be able to get it back, take out Contra Unit. And I just want to know what's next for you as far as what's your next goal for you in Dynasty. Do you want to continue where you left off with Mance Warner, you and Richard Holiday, since it's just the two of you guys right now? Do you want to go for tag titles, or what's next for you as far as what you want to accomplish with MLW?
Well, one thing I've really decided is like no more being modest as far as my goal setting. Like I'm not afraid to say I want the biggest prize in the game, and if someone thinks I'm silly for that or someone thinks I'm not ready, I don't care. Like I'm not gonna hide what I want because someone else's opinion. So I want the biggest prize in the game. It's a world heavyweight championship. And like the whispers of that and the idea of that was starting to kind of get some buzz before the break. People were starting to talk, people were starting to kind of clamor for that match, and I was really worried that with a break it was going to kind of die down, the boil was going to drop to a simmer. But if anything, it's just become more and more in demand. Like MLW can't make a post about Fatu without people tagging me, and vice versa. That being said, the first episode of Fusion back, the main event's already been announced. It's Davey Boy Smith versus Fatu. So that could very well change, and we could end up with Davey Boy Smith as our new champion. Which, truth be told, like either of those is a great competitor. Either of those guys is someone that I'd love to tear it up with. But I want to get my hands on Fatu in an MLW ring. That's something that I think is going to be a match that people really want to see. It's going to be a match that steals the show, no matter what show it's on. But in the meantime, I do feel like I've carved out a little bit of a niche with the National Openweight Championship, kind of making that, the Wrestlers Championship, kind of making that, whenever that match is on the line, it's going to be a match where people are going balls to the walls, leaving everything out there and delivering a hell of a wrestling match. And it's an honor to be in that position. It's an honor to say, hey, we might not, you might not be ingrained in some big, long storyline or some feud, but if we bring in some international talent or some guy who's, the best from this other area and he's a great wrestler, we're going to put him with you because we want you guys to go out there and kill it. That's a good spot to be in. It's a really cool spot. So if that's, if that's kind of where I get stuck in for a little while when we get back, I'm more than happy to do that. I'm more than happy to keep raising the prestige of that belt. But that being said, if I'm raising the prestige of this championship, if I'm being talked about as one of the best in company, then why is Fatu also being talked about as one of the best in company? Why don't we shut it up? Why don't we kill the argument? Why don't we see who's the best of the best? We basically have two heavyweight champions right now. And I'm getting a little bit sick of, standing in the shadow of Fatu, So I got some steep goals ahead of me. And I think first things first is just, to rack up some wins and remind everybody that your boy Hammer brings the fire every time he gets in the ring.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. So, as you just touched on, so yeah, the first episode of Fusion next week, it's going to be Davey Boy Smith Jr. taking on Jacob Fatu for the World Heavyweight title. Also, Myron Reed, he's going to be defending the World Middleweight Championship against Brian Pillman Jr. So, 2 matches announced. And like I said, follow MLW on social media for more updates. So, I cannot wait for that and see what's next for you as far as defending the National Openweight Championship, which, by the way, I think that might be the best looking belt in all of pro wrestling. Like, whoever came up with the belt designs for MLW is a genius. I love your guys' your titles as far as their big gold circular plates. I mean, it's amazing. So with you walking around with that, with your title respectively, it's awesome. So it's so cool. But yeah, no, so like I said, look forward to what's next with you. Now, for Dynasty specifically, right now, it's just you and Richard Holiday. So for anyone who you might have not heard about or what happened, can you explain what happened with Gino and why is he no longer part of the Dynasty?
Well, I mean, my answer is simple. When you paired up me, Max, and Holiday, MJF, it was almost a very random pairing. Like I didn't necessarily know what was going to happen of it, and then it was one of those situations where they struck gold. I don't care if this is cocky because I'm not saying I'm so great. I'm saying the 3 of us together were so great. Richard Holiday brought a lot to the table. MJF brought a lot to the table. And I was, contributing in some fashion to that. And I think the 3 of us together, the way we were able to play off each other and just create these moments on accident, whether it's catchphrases or just funny promos or things that people to this day are still repeating every time I meet fans, you referenced the 91 Hogan tan, that straight from a Dynasty promo. That it was an accidental, line. But we were always just one take promo guys every time. Yeah. Because we just had so much fun together, and it was just such an organic, awesome thing. And then we started to try to tamper with it, and we introduced, Logan Creed into the group, and that wasn't a good fit. And he got out. And then we introduced Gino. Max went to the wayside, and then it was just me, Holiday, and Gino. Yeah. And it was just very obvious to us that Gino was not MJF. Yeah. We didn't gel with him the same way that MJF. And to be fair, I don't think he didn't like gelling with us. And somehow over quarantine, me and Holiday kept in touch. We kept doing this and that. And it was just less and less and more he kind of got isolated. And pretty soon, there was a post or two where he just kind of said he didn't want to be Dynasty, and then said, well, we don't want you in Dynasty. So he will to this day say he quit. I will to this day say he was booted. But that being said, I'm just fine with the Dynasty being myself and Richard Holiday. I don't want to try to shove a square head or a square peg in a triangle hole. I'm not going to try to fit someone in if it doesn't fit. So if the Dynasty is a duo, then that's just fine for now.
Okay, no, good to know. I was just curious about that. And I mean, as we all know, Gino loves the mamacita, so he's apparently got a lot of activities to deal with for the time being. So I mean, that kind of answers my next question. Was there any plans to add any new members of the Dynasty? But it looks like the 2 of you are fine just now.
Yeah, I'd say, it's definitely a situation where we're not actively looking for it. If it falls into our lap, if a situation occurs, sure, let's, I'm open to it, but it's going to be very hard to top, the original trio.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. And I definitely want to touch on a little bit more of MJF in a little bit, but I just also want to say just congrats. Earlier this year, you re-signed a new multi-year deal with MLW along with Richard Holiday, Jacob Fatu. So that's really cool seeing that MLW, is investing in their talent and trying to keep like a core of wrestlers on their roster. So just for you, I mean, I guess it's similar to what you just answered earlier as far as MLW trying to expand their reach from a TV standpoint. But for you, the fact that they're like, locking down various wrestlers on the roster, that must be put a lot of confidence in you in MLW for long term what they want to try to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a multitude of things you have to consider when signing a contract,
Mm-hmm.
and the price point has to be correct for both parties to be happy. That goes without saying. But beyond that, a lot of people always say, "Well, why aren't you going here? Why aren't you going there? You should do this. You should do that." But what people don't realize is that basically every major company had given me a look at some point,
Okay.
and nobody gave me a job.
Mm.
And then when MLW gives me a job, they start featuring me. Now everyone comes knocking. They say, "Oh, we want you. We want you. We want you." I said, "Well, what about 6 months ago?"
Yeah.
So there's a great deal of loyalty on my end to Court Bauer, because it wasn't a situation. It was like a situation where they let me do me. They put me out there and said, "What do you got?" And if the more I succeeded, the more opportunities I got. The more I did well, I had a good string of matches. They put me in a championship tournament. I won the championship. I start defending it and doing and representing it well. They send me to Japan. I do well in Japan. They put me in main events in Mexico. Like they constantly gave me the chance. They said, reach for the brass ring, and if you grab it, you grab it. We're not gonna mess with it. We're not gonna put roadblocks in your way. But if you can't keep up, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. MLW signs a lot of guys, and there's like people on the internet who will talk about this and that and the other, about how this guy is stuck in an MLW contract that he doesn't want to be in.
Yeah.
The guys who are stuck in contracts that they might not end up being happy with are the guys who are lazy, the guys who underperform, and the guys that honestly we don't want in a locker room. I think we've cleared it out. I think that's why the restart is so great. It's because I think we've got a core group of guys who all work their asses off, who all really fill a great role in the company. They want the company to succeed. They want themselves to succeed, and everyone's working their ass off. So, MLW has always respected and appreciated the guys that put their work pants on, and come and try to provide great wrestling and great content for the show. So every time they've thrown me a new opportunity, it's just, I have that much more respect for them. They have that much more respect for me, and it's a place that I want to be. I don't want to, get an extra zero on my paycheck, but be miserable with my job.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I've never been happier wrestling than with MLW, and that's not me trying to kiss ass or be a company man. That's 100% the truth. I was at a point in wrestling where I was almost going to quit. I was planning my exit strategy, and then I got the opportunity here, and it's just completely reinvigorated me. And I'm so excited every time we do something. I'm so excited and mentally invested in it. And to me, that's priceless, so I don't want to ever end up hating wrestling again. And I know MLW is just, for now, it's my home. It's the place I want to be, and I'm super happy. And as to your point, it's also very encouraging to see other people who I think are very, very valuable talents, such as Richard Holiday and Jacob Fatu, two guys who are definitely stars and are just going to keep getting better. It's very, it's very encouraging to see those guys get locked up too, because I know, okay, not only am I here, but I'm surrounded by talent on that level, not caliber. And I think we're just setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Just a lot of respect to hear those words from you. And yeah, I mean, we all love Jacob Fatu out here in the Bay Area. He has a big presence. He's from here. So we're very lucky before the pandemic to see him on a regular basis. And we love seeing what he does with MLW. And as you said, I mean, just the amount of talent that comes in and out of there is amazing. I mean, just earlier this year, Killer Cross did some shows with you guys. Even I've seen the announcements for the restart. I mean, you're gonna see guys like TJP, ACH. I mean, there's a ton of guys. Leo Rush. I mean, God, there's so many people coming through that it's really gonna be exciting to see what MLW has in store and what other talent that they can bring in, either long term or some handful of shows. I cannot wait. It's super exciting. but there's so much to talk about. I mean, we can go on about MLW. I just want to ask real quick. I mean, obviously the pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, Court Bauer, put things on hold for a while. A lot of guys were trying to do other things in the meantime to stay busy. You specifically, you did a couple appearances for United Wrestling Network's Primetime Live. Just your experience doing that. One of my best friends, Bimbo Jimbo, James Kincaid, he's one of the announcers there, so he got to see you in person wrestle, but I got to watch you on Fight TV. But yeah, just your experience finally, appearing in a ring for Primetime Live.
So it was a familiar experience just because mostly the guy spearheading that operation is Dave Marquez, and over the years I've worked with him on and off for his Hollywood program, and then also the Championship Wrestling for Arizona program that he ran for, or I think he's currently still running it. I know. So I've worked with him here and there. So it was very familiar in that regard. It was, it was super fun. I feel like every wrestling show has been super fun because you get in these locker rooms and you're just seeing people you haven't seen in months,
Yeah.
All these friends who I have who are scattered across the country. It's just so great to see everybody. Primetime Live specifically was enjoyable for me because it was my first no fans show, I believe. The first time I had to perform without any fans. I had done a couple indie dates prior here and there, but they had been in like limited capacity venues with fans still there. So it might have been a small amount of fans, but it was still something. So Primetime Live was my first time doing that. So I was kind of like second guessing like how I was going to be able to perform in that atmosphere. But, not to toot my own horn, but I think I did just fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't weird to me at all. I was just very much focused on beating the living crap out of the other guy. So yeah, it was an enjoyable experience. I think up to this point, I don't know what's in the future as far as that holds. There honestly, to a point, there was some discussion about trying to make some guarantees happen, but with my current contract with MLW, it affords me the opportunity to make these appearances, but I'm not allowed to sign another contract, even if it's for 5 shows. Like, it's just legally not allowed. So that being said, I'm not sure what the immediate future is in regards to Primetime Live. I don't know if I'm going to be making more appearances for them. It's definitely something that the fans have asked for. The fans are clamoring for it. Man, the fans are even asking me to wrestle Nick Aldis for the NWA World Title, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, anytime you get to put me in a wrestling ring with quality opponents, quality competition, I'm down. So
okay,
if it lines up with what I'm allowed to do contractually, I'm all for it.
Cool. Well, and speaking of, cross promotions and stuff, I just want to ask, hey, listen, AEW, we've seen them work with, NWA. Even this past weekend at Full Gear, Don Callis from Impact Wrestling was there as a guest of Kenny Omega. So we've seen kind of in this pandemic, I mean, other promotions work together. And I think that's cool. I think the fans just kind of geek out because I was talking with a friend of mine. I think we're so used to like, every promotion is by themselves. They don't do anything, especially if you're a wrestling fan the last like 20 years. Like, for example, WWE, they act like they're the only ones in their universe that exist. No other wrestling promotions outside of them exist in their world. So I think it's just really cool. As of late, we're seeing all these wrestling promotions crossover, guys appearing here and there and whatnot. So just kind of your thoughts on that in as far as pro wrestling goes in 2020, and would you like to see MLW get involved in that and do some crossover promotions, events with other wrestling companies?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's cool because it's like, it's kind of silly to sit there and pretend that there's no other wrestling in the world, you know?
Yeah.
And to not like acknowledge where somebody came from, like when they wrestle on this show, it's like everyone knows that, everyone knows that, TJ Perkins is the first ever cruiserweight champion, but you're not allowed to talk about that because he's not wrestling at a WWE. It gets silly. So it's fun for the fans, especially the fans that tune into multiple, programs. That being said, something that's a hard truth is that when you get these relationships and these partnerships, there's typically one person reaping more of the benefit than the other, you know? So, it's like earlier this year when, I was getting tagged freaking 30, 40 times a day in this, open challenge, from Cody Rhodes, because there was a clip of him, saying, oh yeah, I've heard this Hammerstone guy, and people are like, oh, what are you going to show up on AEW? It's like, I mean, well, first of all, obviously the contract situation, makes that issue, but it's like, with all due respect, I mean this by no means as an insult to anybody who took part in that, but I'm not so anxious just to be on a show or so to wrestle that I'm willing to do anything to diminish my presentation. Because I got to keep in mind, I'm representing MLW as their national openweight champion. So it's like, okay, like if you want to wrestle me, let's wrestle for this championship. Let's put the championships against each other. Let's both be presented as a champ, and and this is not an insult to that company or to anybody there. They don't want to do that. They want to bring in those guys to help their guys, which is just the way wrestling works, So that being said, like if these opportunities come, arise in the future where, it's a good situation for everybody involved and, the boss man is, making it happen. Like I said earlier, I'm ready for any and all matches against any and all talent, preferably top dogs at top companies. Like that's always going to be a cool thing. But that being said, my priority is with MLW, and I'm not going to do anything that could potentially harm our product, could potentially harm our presentation, or blatantly goes against my contract, gets me fired. So it's a cool situation when it happens, but I'm not sure what's going to be able to happen in the future that benefits all parties. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, but I'm also going to say there's nothing that seems to be in the works in the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. No, I totally get that. I understand it. It's a business at the end of the day, and the powers that be who can make those decisions. Things happen when they can. Listen, I know you've been very generous with your time. Just got a couple more for you. So obviously, we've been mentioning MJF, and for me and a lot of us, we all know he was part of Dynasty. We all know what he's doing now with AEW, and just curious of just, what's your relationship with him like right now? Do you still stay in touch with him? Also, just on a side note, listen, we've been following him and his whole saga with Chris Jericho right now, as far as he wanted to join a faction, and now he's currently part of the Inner Circle. For me, when he cut that promo a while ago and said like he wants to be part of a faction in order to succeed, I mean, my gut reaction was like, dude, the Dynasty, he has the Dynasty. Like, the Dynasty should be here to help him out. So, listen, I know you just gave your previous answer about business and whatnot, but just curious, would there ever be a possibility of maybe Dynasty appearing on AEW in some capacity? I know we've seen guys do one-off appearances. I mean, is that something that's been discussed, or would you want the possibility of maybe that happening at some point?
It hasn't been discussed.
Okay.
It's something that most likely wouldn't happen, isn't gonna happen. But to work with Max, whether it was a one-off, us going there, or him coming back to us, which might have been discussed, that it would be a joy, because my overall opinion of him, as per your first question, is great. Like, I love that guy. I think he's phenomenal. I do still keep in touch with him here and there. I assume his phone is blowing up with people who think they're his friend all the time, or trying to get favors out of him. Hey brother, how do I get booked? Or hey brother, can you put in a word? So I try not to bother him.
Okay.
But whenever I want to get in touch, he's more than generous with his time.
Cool.
And he's just such a phenomenal talent. People will talk about his promo work all day, but I might argue that he's even better in the ring than he is on the mic, just because people don't understand how good he is in the ring. I knew from watching him, and I've known from watching him interact with people backstage just how smart he is. But then when I wrestled him myself, he's damn near flawless when he wrestles. So it's like it always cracks me up when I see Twitter like, oh, all he does is cut promos, he doesn't even know how to wrestle. Like, he's incredibly good in the ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just have nothing but respect for him. I do hope, what, I don't know where it might be, but I do hope we can cross paths someday in the future, whether here or there or somewhere, to
Yeah.
be decided. I just hope our careers aren't done intermingling, because he's just so much fun to work with, whether against him or side by side.
Love hearing that. No, that's so cool. And yeah, fingers crossed one day we can see, maybe not necessarily the Dynasty as labeling it as that, but like, in some capacity, you guys can be in the ring together at some point, doing something together down the road. That'd be so cool. Listen, real quick, I just, a lot of people who might be watching this right now or just know you just from MLW only here in the Bay Area. A lot of us know you as the current West Coast Pro Wrestling champion. Awesome promotion. I'm representing right now. Got my t-shirt on. Just kind of touch on just your time so far working with West Coast Pro Wrestling and just your thoughts on the whole wrestling scene here in the Bay Area and Northern California.
Man, it's been a trip, because I've been there since the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The very first show, and a lot of times when you get hit up for a first time, like, hey, I'm starting a company. Like, so when I get hit up with this, I'm starting a company email, I don't even expect them to actually follow through and run the show. Like, mm-hmm. I'm kind of a jerk. I'm not a jerk with those emails, but I'm very much like, okay, here's where you have to send my plane ticket. Here's where I have to send my money. And until I get those, I'm not going to consider this date booked.
Okay.
Just because if I booked all those dates that come my way in an email, I would have 40 shows a year that fall through and never happen.
Yeah.
So they did. They sent me my ticket. They sent me my pay, and it was a little bit of a rocky start the first show, just mm-hmm. because, just like anything else, you're gonna run into unforeseen problems and unforeseen. But the one thing I do remember was talking to the promoter. He was very, dead set on making this success and navigating the landmines and figuring out how to run this successfully. And slowly but surely, this just show started getting better and better and better. And we had a couple rough ones in the beginning before they got all the ducks in the row. And then, man, it got to a point where it was becoming one of those really awesome shows where people knew they were going to see really awesome cards. I've had some really fun, really good matches there,
with Cage, right?
Nick Gage?
Yeah, dude. When you guys came flying by me into the crowd, that was so awesome. No, it's cool. Like I said, I want to give a shout out to Scott and the rest of his team for putting on West Coast Pro Wrestling. I mean, they're, I think, over a year old now. I mean, pre-pandemic. Yep. So I mean, it's been so much fun, and I love the room that they perform in. I've never been to a PWG show down in SoCal, but he kind of explained to me he's kind of trying to mirror that a little bit up in Northern California and just bringing a top talent. And it's great. We get to see a lot of guys like yourself that we might not see elsewhere here in the Bay Area. So it's just so much cool. And I listen, I know you're a big, musician, guitar player and whatnot. So I geeked out, and, I work at a rock station here in San Francisco. And so, dude, when I saw you for the first time and you came out to Queens of the Stone Age, Millionaire, I was like, dude, this is like, I'm standing there, I'm like, and hear Nick Oliveri's voice just screaming. I was like, dude, this is a badass theme song. So how'd you choose that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you that, and then I'm gonna transition into something really cool.
Okay.
So I used to come out to this song by a group called Cell Dweller, which most people have never heard of. But and then at the end of 2018 is when I kind of revamped my character. I cut my hair, I changed up my look, I changed my presentation, and the whole idea behind what I was doing was just stop trying to fit in to pro wrestling. Stop trying to cut promos a certain way or look a certain way or wear a certain kind of gear to fit into this, this mold of what I thought I was supposed to be, or how other people had constantly told me, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should. And I was like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like trying to come up with the music that fit that And then and I had like some songs picked out that were nothing like Millionaire.
Okay.
And then it hit me that I was contradicting myself. I was trying to present this character who just did whatever he wanted, but I was trying to find the perfect music to fit that. I'm like, no, the perfect music is whatever the hell I want. Like the perfect music is cool music that is going to get me amped to go to the ring. So I literally picked like, that was like the song that was just my pre-workout, or not my pre-workout, but like my go-to workout song during that whole like transition period. I was like, let's do this because this song gets me fired up every time I hear it. And I made it my entrance song. Now, that being said, possibly the coolest part of the restart is I've been coming out to a different song at MLW. Obviously, when you deal with syndicated television that's going to be on cable and streamed and all that stuff, you run into the issue of music rights and copyrights and all that stuff. So I had a different kind of generic entrance music that was cool, but wasn't my favorite, but it worked. And then about 2 weeks before we taped anything, Court messaged me. He's like, I feel like we might need something different for your entrance music. Do you think that or no? I was like, I kind of do. And then we talked, and he's like, well, what are you thinking? And I'm thinking I'm gonna have to like roll through some catalog of like copyright free generic rock songs or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I tell him about Millionaire, and he goes, let's see what I can do. And they went and they got the proper rights. So that's now my theme song on MLW.
Oh my God, dude, that's going to be so awesome. I mean, that right there, I want to tune in for that and see that. Dude, that's so cool. Just real quick, any other bands that you listen to while you're working out? Any other bands that's kind of in the rotation you like to listen to?
Ooh, let's see. So working out is typically like heavy, like, borderline metal or weird electronic stuff.
Okay.
Kind of go-tos right now. Let's see, Azalea Dying, Aspen Alexandria.
Okay, yeah.
I just started listening to this group called like Carpenter Brut or Brute, and it's like weird electric, like heavy music, but it gets me fired up. I Prevail is another one.
Yeah.
That is some of the people, but man, the range of music I listen to is pretty much anything that excludes country music. So there's times when like I'll be listening to something like someone be like, what are you working out to? And then they listen like this, and they're like, how does this get you fired up? It'll be like some super chill song. But yeah, man, I'm like, coming from a musical background, playing in bands and that, there's like, I have a very wide appreciation for a very wide style, or a very wide array of styles.
Do you have a favorite band?
The Strokes.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like the first band that like really, really got me like heavily invested in a band in like 2002, like when it was like new,
Yeah.
And I think they might have been my first concert.
Okay.
And I was hooked, and ever since then, it's like, I feel like a lot of people do this. Like, are they still my favorite, or are they just my favorite because they've always been my favorite?
Yeah.
Like, I listen to other bands a lot more and probably enjoy them more, but the Strokes are always like, well, they're the Strokes. They're my favorite. You know?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the way it's been.
Awesome. No, I love hearing them. So when we have more time, maybe let's do a second interview down the road. We'll definitely talk a lot more music and whatnot. I love like your throwback photos of you on stage with your guitar. Even you post videos of you just shredding on your guitar as well. And that's so cool. I mean, I love that. I just one last thing, just curious, what are your goals for MLW and where do you want to see MLW go next in 2021? Fingers crossed this pandemic is over sooner rather than later. So, but yeah, what's next for everyone?
So I'm very much of the mindset that to be a top guy in the company, you have to adopt the frame of mind that you don't want to grow yourself. You want to grow the brand. And I want to see us continue to step up and fill larger and larger venues, like you said, if that's in the cards as far as, social distancing, things of that nature. I definitely want to see us put on another pay-per-view, if not multiple pay-per-views next year, because, our pay-per-view was that was like a best show we ever did. And I think it's like something to do with that extra pressure just fires everybody up. But but those two things for sure. And then something that's been tossed around and is a very real possibility if the world gets a little bit more back to normal is doing a show internationally. There's been talks of us doing Canada. There's been talks of us doing England. There's been talks of us doing Puerto Rico. Obviously we did Mexico. But hitting some of those other international markets, you know, I think would be just such a fun experience to have, you know, a whole group of the roster traveling and getting to do our thing and, you know, on another continent or, you know, across a border. So that would be a big one for me for sure.
I mean, Puerto Rico would be cool, but I'm a little worried for, you know, Richard Holiday having to defend the Caribbean Championship in Puerto Rico. Savio Vega probably will have some issues.
I want to see that. I want to see how many people are going to throw batteries at him.
Oh my God, that'd be awesome. But listen, man, Alex, dude, thank you so much for making the time. As you can tell, I'm super excited for you and for everyone else involved at MLW. So the restart happening next Wednesday, November 18th. Make sure to watch Fusion every Wednesday now. It's going to be on Fubo Sports Network, Wednesdays, 7 o'clock. Also on DAZN 24/7. You can check it out on the YouTube page. I'll link everything up at 1077thebone.com. Also share it on social as well. Follow MLW on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow yourself on social media as well. Facebook, also Twitter, Instagram at Alex Hammerstone. Go to MLWshop.com or your pro wrestling tee store. I got to get me a Muscle Mountain shirt. Like, dude, I love the commercials during Fusion. It's always your voice, Muscle Mountain. Like, I always hear that. It's like, oh, dude, it's a reminder I need to go get some. But no, is there anything else you want to plug or mention to all the listeners out there?
I mean, I think you did an incredible job. You covered all the bases. So I think I'll just leave it at that.
Awesome, man. So yeah, MLW.com for more info. I'll link everything out there. And as always, please subscribe to In The Kliq on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, also YouTube, and subscribe to us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on all the major podcast platforms. So, and of course, 1077thebone.com for all of our past episodes. Alex, listen, thank you so much for making the time. Looking forward to doing this again very soon. Good luck to you. And looking forward to hang out with you once again, once West Coast Pro Wrestling gets to put on some shows again, hopefully in the near future. And yeah, congrats and good luck for everything coming up for you, okay?
Right on. Thank you so much, brother. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Talk to you later.